Hey, this is Josh Pyke, and you're listening to Torrent This with Dando.
And now I'm joined on the line by a man who has recently released his new single, Punch in the Heart, which comes from his top 5 album, Only Sparrows. And he'll be playing tonight at the Torquay Hotel as part of his Only Sparrows regional tour. We're, of course, talking about Josh Pyke, and I'm lucky to be joined on the line by Josh himself. Josh, thanks for your time, man, and how's things?
My pleasure. Things are very good. We're just literally driving down to Torquay now as I speak to you.
Oh, cool. Recuperated from your first night of the tour yet, man?
Yeah, it was great, though. I've got to say, it was Western Port at San Remo. It was a full house and just, really great vibe, so it was really good.
I'm assuming because you're Josh Pyke, you must be still living the rock and roll all night and party every day lifestyle, yeah?
Sometimes. It's always hard to avoid it, especially on the first night and the last night of a tour, but I don't know, if you do it every night, it kind of it wrecks you these days. My body is not what it used to be. It's disintegrating.
How was your holiday in Fremantle?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was great. It was really, really, really hot over there, but it was kind of just relaxing. Went out to Rottnest Island and hung out with friends, so it was good for a break.
Have you been looking forward to this tour, man, as something different compared to your sellout capital city shows?
Yeah, I mean, I love touring in general, and regional touring is it's a very different beast from capital cities, and I do dig it. It's got a different energy and a different vibe in the crowd. And they're kind of, good old-fashioned, honest pub shows, so I always do look forward to that kind of vibe.
Yeah, do you prefer to play in, say, front of 100 people at a pub or thousands at a festival?
It's just got a different pros and cons. Like playing in front of a smaller crowd at a smaller venue is, you kind of really get that energy from the crowd and that engagement. But then, playing at a festival in front of lots of people, it's a different type of energy that you get. And I don't know, as long as people are obviously enjoying it, I'm pretty happy either way.
Yeah, the tour is to promote your Only Sparrows album, which was your third album to debut in the ARIA Top 5. Have you just grown to expect your music to be successful these days?
No, not at all. You honestly, you never know, you never know what to expect. I really believe that you're only ever as good as your last record. So, I really loved the record that I made, and I was hoping that it would do well, and I was hoping that, people would kind of jump on board. And so I was really stoked with how it went, but I didn't necessarily expect it to go as good as it did.
Can you look back on the album now and smile, or are you still hearing little things that make you cringe which you wish you could change now?
Well, to be honest, I never really listened to my own music, and so when we play the songs live every night, those are the versions that I kind of have in my head, and they're actually quite different from what's on the record. So by the time I ever can bring myself to listen to one of my own records, I have a bit of a more objectivity about it because I've got a bit of distance from it, and by then you kind of, I don't know, there's nothing you can do about it anyway, so you just got to love what you've produced and move on.
Would you say that you're one of those guys that sounds better live than in studio?
I hope not. I think I try to approach them differently. I think I try to really layer things and have interesting things on the record that you might pick up on headphones after the third listen.
Yeah.
Whereas live, it's more about that instant gratification and a big sound and sort of dynamic shift. So you have your intimate moments and your larger rock moments and that. So I just think of them as two different things.
Do you intend to engage with your crowds quite a bit in between tracks?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I don't know if it's something about me or the crowds that I play to, but people always seem pretty comfortable, like trying to talk to me during the set, which is always quite funny. I'm always like, I'm actually trying to do something at the moment.
Yeah, I'm actually doing my job. Can you be quiet? Yeah. Your newest single off the album, your new single is Punch in the Heart. This track was written quite some time ago there, yeah? It
was, yeah. I co-wrote it with the great Australian artist called Whitley, on a regional tour, funnily enough, many years ago, or about 4 years ago. We were just killing time in a hotel room and we came up with a song, but even at that point we were like, we knew that it needed a female vocal in there.
Yeah.
And when it came time to do this record, I just was kind of reflecting on all the songs that I, had up my sleeve, and I remembered that one. And it just felt right to include it on this album. It seemed like the right dynamic, and the album needed that counterpoint, I thought. So yeah, so we included it.
Was Katie Steele always your first choice to collaborate with it on the track?
I didn't really have much of an idea about it. I knew that it wanted to be a female vocalist, and then it was actually my partner suggested Katie, because we've known Katie for a while, and she just has that classic vulnerability and the sort of juxtaposition of vulnerability and strength in her voice, and I think she has quite a unique female Australian voice in the landscape of female artists in this country. So yeah. was kind of a no-brainer once we thought of it.
Did you record any tracks that you had to leave off, which you now regret not putting onto the album?
We did record some that we left off, but I don't regret leaving them off. I mean, I really love the tracks. There's a song called Pressed Against You in the Crowd, and a song called Don't Bury Me When I Die that didn't end up on the record. But, you know, the reason they didn't was because when I was compiling the track list, they just didn't fit, you know, and unless you're going to have a sort of 15-track album,
Yeah.
it just wasn't going to work. So sometimes you just have to cut your losses and let them go.
Just a Josh Pyke Use Your Illusion 1 and 2?
I'd love to do a double album. They're never that good, are they? There's very few examples of good double albums.
Yeah. Does the fact that it was difficult for you to not have a fingerprint on every track, as you put it, come as a result of you being a perfectionist?
I think it's more. I wouldn't describe myself as perfectionist at all. Actually, I'm sort of more happy to move on from vocal takes and guitar takes if I think that they're got a vibe, even if they're not perfect. But for me, the thing was about like trying to be really, really involved with everything in the past. It was more about kind of living or dying by my decisions. So having come from a band background where everything was democracy, I wanted to know early on in my career that if I made decisions that ended up being shit decisions, that was my fault. But if they ended up being good decisions, then I could also kind of count on myself for this as well. So. But, this far into my career, I work with people that I trust and really respect as musicians.
You've said this was the first album where you felt confident to take risks, such as not having full control over the tracks. What held you back on the first two albums?
Well, just pretty much what I said before. Just the idea of making decisions that I knew were definitely mine, so that if something turned out that that I wasn't happy with, I couldn't blame a producer or something like that and go, oh, they messed it up for me. I wanted to know that if I was going to mess up, if I'd mess it up myself, or if it was going to go well, it was kind of because of me.
Yeah, you're to blame. Yeah. What made you want to go to New York to write music?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a like, why not? Answer, It's a great place, a beautiful city, stimulating city, and I've been there a number of times before and always just had a great time. And I needed to kind of get outside my headspace to finish the record off and also just get a bit of perspective on the songs that I'd already written. So it was kind of, it was a bit of a case of, why not? I mean, there's a million different places you could go to, but it's a pretty good option if you've got it.
Yeah. Were you there alone or with your family?
No, totally by myself. I just rented a small apartment in Greenwich Village and just had my, laptop and little Pro Tools rig.
Yeah.
And just would cruise around during the day and try and think of song ideas and then come home and demo at night. And it was bucketing down snow as well, so it was pretty, bleak, but quite, I guess, romantic landscape,
How much does touring and recording impact on your personal and social life?
It impacts a lot. I mean, it's definitely a pretty different lifestyle, but I've been doing this for a long time, and it's just kind of become the norm for me and my family, so it's, you just make it work. And I know people who work for pharmaceutical companies and stuff like that actually end up traveling a lot more than I do. So I definitely think that the pros of being able to, play music to people who want to be there every night definitely outweigh the cons in the end.
Has it been difficult working fatherhood into your schedule?
Well, yeah, I mean, it absolutely has, but I kind of try and, not take on a victim mentality about it and just, it's challenging no matter what. It's challenging trying to balance, those aspects of your life, no matter what you do, whether or not you're a musician or a whatever, 9 to 5. So it's kind of like it's always a challenge, and you just kind of have to go with it.
Do you feel like you'll be inclined to direct your child down a musical path, even if it was like subconsciously?
Nah, man, I would be discouraging it.
Really?
Sure. I was actually talking about this to the guys in the band yesterday, and we were saying how if you're compelled to be a musician, you actually feel like you, in your heart and in your soul, that you're obsessed and you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Then of course you should pursue something like that. But if you feel like it's one of several things that you'd be very happy to do, I would probably recommend going down a safer path. And being a musician, I feel blessed and very honoured to kind of have a career that seems to be going all right, but there's just so many twists and turns where it can all go horribly wrong and be kind of depressing and frustrating, and I wouldn't really wish that upon anyone, really.
One thing I've found by researching you online, man, is that it's pretty hard to find a negative review on your work. Are online reviews something you pay attention to?
Well, I'm guilty of it's a funny thing, you can read 10 good reviews and then read one lukewarm one and you just feel like
shit
putting your head in an oven,
Yeah.
So I do try not to read any of them, but I've definitely been guilty of checking some stuff out, especially when you first release a record or whatever.
If only Sparrows had received some negative reviews, would this have changed the way you went about writing music in the future?
No, I don't think so, because it would have made me have a lot of self-doubt, I reckon, and it would have kind of made me feel like shit, but you can't second-guess your instincts when it comes to songwriting, because if you want to be a songwriter that sort of has integrity and feels like they can stand by the songs they write for the next 20 years of your life,
yeah,
playing them in front of people every night, you can't write with an agenda, because, if you sit down and say, I'm going to write a single that I think is going to be popular, then, lots of people do that, and I don't that's just not the way I work, and so even if this album had received negative reviews, I think I'd still just follow my instincts about how to write, how I want to write music. Otherwise, it's kind of no point doing it.
Yeah, exactly. What are your thoughts on the impact social medias like Facebook have had on both yourself and the industry as a whole?
It's pretty huge. There's always something, though, isn't there? It's like, there's always some way to interact with fans, and, the interaction with fans now is so immediate with Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's had a huge impact on how people get their music out to people. I think it's sort of created a music listening community that don't necessarily expect to have to pay for music. But hopefully at some point it'll all balance out with people going to more live shows and sort of supporting up and coming acts because they have access to more music. So I don't know yet. I think it's going to all kind of come out in the wash in the next couple of years, and we'll get some balance back again.
The reason I ask is because last year you collaborated with 360, who's well known for his use of social media. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was pretty minimal, really. I met him at the APRA Awards through a mate of mine who worked at his record company at that point.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later, this same mate rang up and said, you want to collaborate on this track? And I was like, well, I don't know much about the guy. Send me some demos and stuff. And I was just really taken with his work. I think he's a really clever lyricist. I checked out some of his MC battles on YouTube and stuff like that, and listened to his demos and really liked it. And I could hear my voice on the track. And so from there, I'm really open to working on stuff as long as I like the music, basically. And I really dug it. So and it seemed to go really well, which is cool. Do
you think because of the track, it's had like nearly 500,000 views on YouTube? Do you think that's helped you reach a newer audience?
Maybe. I didn't actually know it had been viewed that many times.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I guess, it definitely has been. I think it's, you kind of have to try and be versatile as an artist, and that's why I try to do things like, do a Bass and Birds record, collaborate with people. I've done some, a single for a film a couple of years ago that did quite well. And so I think anything where you can get your music out to a demographic that you wouldn't normally get to via your traditional kind of ways, and I think that's good.
Yeah. Now, you're pretty well known for your rugged facial hair. What are the chances of it coming off for the world's greatest shave in March?
It just can't happen. I don't know what's under there. It's been a long time. I don't even know anymore if I have a face under my beard, and I just prefer not to find out, because I actually had a dream the other night that I was trimming my beard and I accidentally shaved half of it off. And it was really terrifying. It was like a nightmare. So I don't want to live a nightmare, man.
What would you do if one of your mates just shaved it off in your sleep?
I'd be very upset. I'd cancel all my shows. I'd stay in my house until it grew back.
Okay, Nick, we're running a little bit low on time. A couple more questions, man. Where do you see yourself on a personal level and also the band in 12 months?
In 12 months? Well, we're touring all the way up until April, and we're sort of working on something for May, which will be quite special. And then beyond that, I just really want to kick into a new record. I've been writing a bit and demoing a bit, so I'm really keen to press on into a new record and just focus on that. The last couple of years has been a bit all over the shop.
Yeah.
Starting a family and doing Basement Birds as well. So I'd really like to just focus on my solo stuff for a while and and get a new record out by mid next year at the latest, I'd hope.
Mm-hmm. And one last question, man. What advice do you have for all aspiring songwriters and musicians?
It's a bit of a minefield. I'd say in terms of business-wise, if you're happy with the music that you're writing, stick to your guns. And then in terms of business, you can sit around in your bedroom waiting for someone to discover you, but really the only person that's ever going to care, about your music is you, really. No one's ever going to care about it more than you. So you can't wait for opportunities. You've got to make opportunities for yourself, whether that be promoting your own shows or losing money and driving down the coast and playing shows to 5 people, You've got to make opportunities for yourself because nobody's really going to give a shit about your music if you don't do that.
Well, there you go. If you haven't already, make sure you grab yourself a copy of Josh Pyke's latest album, Only Sparrows, and get on down to the Torquay Hotel tonight and check out Josh as he takes the stage in what's sure to be a really fun night. Once again, Josh, thanks for your time, man, and good luck with the tour.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.